"Congratulations, Tyler," I managed to say, forcing a smile that felt jagged and painful. "I'm Charles, 44 years old, and I just witnessed 5 years of my life handed over to a 23-year-old kid who had been at Ravens Park Ventures for just 3 months. Tyler beamed as if he had truly earned something. The conference room was thick with the scent of stale coffee and disappointment. Everyone applauded, and I joined in, my hands clapping mechanically. Gerald Patterson, my manager, stood at the head of the table, boasting like a proud rooster, announcing that Tyler would do great things as our new regional operations director, the same job I had prepared for since 2019, and a position I had been told would be mine after old Henderson retired. I kept a neutral expression, my hands folded, but a sense of cold settled into my chest where hope had once resided. Tyler was Gerald's nephew. Everyone knew it, but no one discussed it. The kid held a fresh business degree and walked in with a confidence that stemmed from never having to struggle for anything. He had only spent 3 months observing me manage vendor contracts, supply chain logistics, and troubleshoot problems across 4 states, and now he was my superior. "Charles had been instrumental in getting Tyler up to speed," Gerald mentioned, as if that somehow lessened the blow. It felt like 5 years of exemplary performance reviews and 60-hour work weeks had just been prep work for someone else's future. "Happy to help," I replied with a nod. As the meeting wrapped up, people streamed out, giving Tyler handshakes and accolades. I gathered my notepad and pen, moving at a deliberate pace. My mind felt razor-sharp, as though I'd suddenly grasped something that had been troubling me for months. As I reached for the door, Gerald caught my arm. "Charles, stick around a minute." We were alone in the conference room now. He loosened his tie, attempting sympathy. "I know this may be surprising, but Tyler brings fresh perspectives, new energy." "Sure," I replied, staring at him intently. Gerald, at 52, was soft around the edges, his thinning hair combed over to mask bald spots. He had inherited his position when his father-in-law retired. I sharpened my focus on the irony. "I understand completely," I said. He relaxed, seeming relieved. "Good. I knew you'd handle this professionally. That's why you're a valuable team member." Valuable? Just not valuable enough for the promotion I deserved, yet valuable enough to train his nephew and wear a smile while doing it. I returned to my desk and sat down, the office buzzing as usual with ringing phones and typing. I opened my laptop and stared at the screen for a full minute before typing. I had started at Ravens Park Ventures in March 2019, right after my divorce. I needed a fresh start, and the world of manufacturing logistics felt like a solid foundation. The company focused on distributing industrial equipment throughout the Southwest, monotonous work that paid well and allowed me to sleep at night. Gerald himself had hired me, claiming they needed someone with my experience. After 12 years at another company, budget cuts had taken my position. Starting over at 44 wasn't easy, but Gerald had made it sound promising. "We're growing rapidly," he'd said during my interview. "Lots of advancement opportunities for the right people." I had become one of those right people, working weekends when shipments were delayed and staying late during customer emergencies, building connections with suppliers from Phoenix to Houston. My performance reviews were immaculate. Gerald always flashed a smile, promising me bigger opportunities ahead. "Your management material, Charles," he'd tell me, urging patience. Patience was a skill I had mastered. My daughter Sophia visited every other weekend, now 16 and old enough to notice when I appeared exhausted. Sometimes she'd find me at the kitchen table on Sunday mornings, my laptop open as I caught up on work emails. "Dad, it's the weekend," she'd say. "Just catching up," I'd respond. "I'm building something good here." She'd roll her eyes, though she understood. Her mom had remarried a lawyer who had reasonable hours and coached the league, while I was a dad who worked too much yet sent birthday money on time and never missed her school plays. The first hint of trouble came 6 months ago, when Gerald mentioned his nephew might join the company. "He's a smart kid," he'd said. "Just graduated from the University of Texas with a business degree." I'd shrugged, thinking nothing of it. Companies often hire recent graduates for entry-level roles. But Tyler was not in an entry-level role. He had a position in the office next to Gerald's as an operations specialist, His salary a mystery. Gerald introduced him around as if he were royalty. Tyler's going to observe our processes, he declared, indicating how he would learn our operations. Tyler observed by sitting in on my client calls, taking notes during vendor negotiations, and asking questions that revealed his basic lack of understanding of our work. Still, he was eager and polite, saying yes, sir, and thank you, like any well-raised child. I trained him because that's what you do. You assist a new colleague, even if that colleague is a manager's nephew, and even as I began to suspect what was coming. The moment the realization struck me was 3 weeks ago, during a conversation I hadn't intended to overhear. I had stayed late to finish quarterly reports, and the office was deserted, save for the cleaning crew. I was on my way to the break room for coffee when I overheard Gerald speaking from his office, door slightly ajar, with the hallway amplifying their voices better than one would expect. The board's going to ask questions, Gerald said. Tyler's only been here 2 months. A deeper, older voice, likely James Mitchell from corporate, replied, "You told me Charles was ready for promotion. Charles is solid, but Tyler's family, and he has a degree. The board favors that," Gerald explained. "What about Charles's experience? He's reliable, but not executive material. He'll keep doing what he's doing, make good money, and everything will work out." I stood in that hallway for 30 seconds, listening to them plot my future. Tyler would take Henderson's position, while I would train him, support him, and pretend to be grateful for the opportunity. "Charles won't cause issues," Gerald continued. "He's got a daughter, alimony payments. He needs this job. He'll fall in line." That's when I quietly walked away to avoid detection. I returned to my desk, saved my work, and left the building, driving home in silence that evening. Sleep was elusive as I replayed Gerald's words in my mind. "He'll fall in line," as if I were a horse to be taught to respond on command. 5 years of dedication had only earned me the right to be grateful for mere crumbs. I thought of Sophia, who had been so proud when I told her about the promotion. "My dad's going to be a director," she had told her friends. Now, I'd have to explain why that wasn't happening. I recalled my ex-wife's words about my passivity. "You let people walk all over you, Charles," she'd said during our final arguments. "Stand up for yourself." Perhaps she was right. The next morning, I arrived at work with a renewed resolve. I began watching Tyler more closely, noticing how Gerald included him in executive meetings while relegating my focus to daily operations. Other managers began to look to Tyler for decisions that should have fallen to me. Sitting in that conference room 3 weeks later, witnessing Tyler bask in congratulations he hadn't earned, I felt something shift within me. Not anger or sadness, but clarity. Gerald assumed I had to keep the job, believing I would simply fall in line due to bills and responsibilities. He was mistaken on many counts. I opened my laptop to draft my resignation letter, and for once, my hands were steady and my thoughts were clear. I submitted that letter at precisely 4:30 p.m. on Friday, just as Gerald returned from showing Tyler around the warehouse. He was still laughing about something when I handed him the envelope. "What's this?" he asked, glancing down. "My resignation," I said simply. The laughter died on his lips. "You're joking." "I'm not." He tore the envelope open, scanning the letter quickly. "Charles, let's not make hasty decisions. You're an asset to this team." "An asset?" I repeated, tilting my head. "You mean the reliable guy who trained your nephew for the job I earned?" His face flushed. "Now, hold on. This is a misunderstanding. Tyler's promotion doesn't diminish your role. It defines it," I said evenly, "and I'm done letting people define me by how much I can tolerate." He tried to recover his tone, putting on that managerial calm. "At least give us a few weeks to find a replacement. I already offered 2. It's in the letter." I replied, "You'll be fine. You've got fresh perspectives and new energy." I walked out before he could respond, and for the first time in years, I felt light. Over the next 2 weeks, I trained Tyler exactly as requested. I showed him everything: contracts, supplier contacts, shipment schedules, but never once did I give him the shortcuts, the subtle moves that kept things running smoothly. I gave him just enough to survive, not to thrive. He asked 100 questions a day, half of which revealed how unprepared he was. Gerald hovered nervously. Try and keep things upbeat. On my last day, Tyler shook my hand awkwardly. I hope I can do as good a job as you did, he said. I smiled. Then you'll need to learn a lot more than what you've been taught here. I left the office that evening with nothing but a small box of my things and a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. 2 months later, I was sitting in the lobby of Silverlinks Energy, waiting for my interview. They were one of Ravens Park's biggest former clients, a major distributor of renewable power equipment. I had built their logistics network years ago. The operations director who interviewed me, a sharp woman named Mary Ann Keller, already knew my work. Gerald Patterson speaks highly of you, she said with a knowing smile, though he didn't expect you to leave. I had other plans, I replied. She nodded. We've been looking for someone who understands integrity in supply chains. The position is Regional Operations Director, Southwest Division. It's yours if you want it. That was the first time I laughed in weeks, an unguarded, genuine laugh. I want it. 6 months passed. My days were long but fulfilling. My team respected me. My ideas mattered. And for the first time, I could look my daughter in the eye when I said I was proud of what I did. One morning, I was reviewing a shipment report when an email from one of our clients appeared. Due to continued logistics failures and delayed orders, Ravens Park Ventures has lost its exclusive contract. We'll be transferring full operations to Silverlinks Energy effective immediately. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. Gerald's old company had just lost one of their most profitable accounts, the very one I had built. 2 weeks later, industry news confirmed it. Ravens Park Ventures announced major restructuring. Gerald stepped down after an internal audit, and Tyler quietly resigned after a string of failed vendor negotiations. It wasn't long before I ran into Tyler again, ironically at a logistics conference in Dallas. He spotted me near the coffee table and hesitated before walking over. Mr. Walker, he greeted, his voice smaller now. I'm taking a few courses in operations management, trying to really understand the work. I nodded. That's good, Tyler. Experience teaches what connections can't. He gave a sheepish smile. You were right, sir. I wasn't ready. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Then make yourself ready. Earn what's yours next time. As he walked away, I caught my reflection in the glass wall behind him. Steadier, calmer, older perhaps, but unbroken. Gerald's empire had fallen. But I hadn't needed to lift a finger. I simply walked away and let integrity do the work. Sophia texted me that evening. Hey, Dad, saw your company featured in the news. Silverlinks is expanding again? I'm proud of you. I smiled at the screen and replied, Thanks, kiddo. Turns out, walking away isn't losing. Sometimes it's winning quietly. Then I close my laptop and turn off the lights, content in the soft hum of peace that only comes when you've finally chosen yourself. The end.